Okay, storm into the party like my name was El Nino.
Something something El Camino.
Oh, yes. Oh, God, yes. Welcome back to Is It Still Good? This is the show where we throw our own house party because nobody came. We lose our rose-colored glasses in said house party. And so it is without them that we have to talk all that kerfuffin alone and look upon the things of our past to decide if any of it's still good. I am Bear Kennedy. I'm in Chicago. Joining me today are a group of familiar faces, starting with, as always,
AC, baby. How about that? First time I ever did that. It
Yeah.
probably didn't work. It'll be the last time, too. Andrew Carter, Los Angeles. We are joined by our beloved guests, known colloquially as the Knicks. Nick Stillwell, Nick Call, here to join us, which means it's a music episode. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But first, I just want to ask the Knicks. Nick Stillwell, how we doing?
Doing well, man. I mean, we were doing pretty well up until the introduction of yourself as AC, but we're doing okay.
That was Nick Call.
Which one?
You've never referred to yourself as AC ever? Like that just like
I did. I did when I was when I was like 7 years old. First time I was skiing, and I learned how to ski and was having my balance. Apparently I skied right past my parents on the bunny hill, and I looked at them and went, "Call me AC," and just kept going.
That was worse than I thought. I thought you were gonna be like, "Oh, I got really into Thomas Edison. Give me that alternating current."
No, not
AC.
even
It
close.
sounds like a boy band name, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Like if you were in like a boy band, you'd be like, "Yeah, my name's AC."
My name's AC.
AC said 10%.
Too bad AC ain't in charge no more. Well, before we get into today's music topic, did everyone have a good day? How's everybody doing? Bear, how you doing?
I had a weird day. I had to become a first responder today. I was a witness to a pedestrian getting wrecked by a vehicle, which was not a great time. She lived, but it was pretty hardcore.
You came upon the scene, or you saw?
I was walking home like half a block from my home, and this was very weird. So a girl was walking gonna cross the street. I live on a 4-lane major street in Chicago, so it's kind of busy. There isn't a light there. She's wearing a mask and I'm not, because I'm fully vaxxed and everything. So I noticed she was wearing a mask outside walking. It's okay, I'll give her a little room. It's normally I don't pay attention to people, but I paid attention to that. And then so I walk past, and then I hear the horn skid collision, and I turn around and I see her getting up, and it was I missed it was very much in the blink of an eye thing. I missed the impact, but I'd seen that person and I saw it happen after, and I ran across the street before I realized I did it, because I was that person just got hit by a fucking car. I'm on foot, I gotta go help. So it sit her down. I don't know what the fuck happened, but she was bleeding from her face, under the mask. She went to take it off. I'm let's just relax. What's up?
She didn't take her mask off?
Dude, I think I saw a loose tooth in there. I figured let's just keep this contained for the moment. Called 911. The ambulance came, and I felt like a real loser because I have no medical training, but I was just let me ask you if you're okay, which that didn't help. And then called 911, which I'd done twice in my life. So I've been thinking about that a lot today. That was weird.
Was she pretty out of it, or I know she had a mask on, so it's kind of hard to tell what's going on in there, but
yeah, when someone gets seriously injured and they have a look, but because it doesn't hurt yet, but they just got fucked up. She had that look. And all I could think was, I hope I'm not giving her a look of, holy shit, how are you alive? Because I really felt like I was doing that, because that's not going to help. But she looked fucked up.
So was her fault, or was it the car's fault?
100% the car's fault. 100%, because she was crossing a 4-lane street, so she crossed 2 lanes to the median, the near side traffic was going to let her cross, but that's always really dangerous because it creates a big problem for the far side traffic lane because they can't tell why the person's stopping, right? So by the time this Prius came up, it realized why everyone stopped because someone was crossing and it whacked that person.
Is it
Wow,
safe to say this accident left her with a fat lip?
Jesus,
Yeah,
that's dark.
I didn't see any bone. An old guy asked me if there was an accident, and then his second question was he like really intensely went, "Was anyone killed?" And I was like, "No, she's in the ambulance." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And they just left. Like that guy scouts the neighborhood for blood. So just a lot of weird shit that I don't normally.
Yeah,
do.
man.
Kind of threw my
Fuck.
day off.
How are you feeling?
I feel fine. Like that's what Jackie was like. Did you see this person get hit? And like, are you okay? Because I can really fuck you up. And I was like, no. It was like I did the math. I saw it was like it happened between like frames of a movie. Like I just knew at the time. Like I don't give a shit if someone rear ends someone, but and I'm not just seen that person crossing. I wouldn't have even thought twice. And
so how close was it? Like, was it close to hitting you at all, or was it just
no?
like...
Because I was going. Let me little theater of the mind. Like I'm going straight. The girl who got hit is coming at a
perpendicular,
and the busy street is parallel to me, so she's going that way while I'm going straight. So by the time she got to Problem Town, it was in my behind me.
Jesus Christ,
that was weird.
Fucking day. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I'm glad she's okay.
As far as I know, I don't think I heard one of the head EMTs calling in like non-life threatening injuries. Like, all right, she's gonna live. But she was like,
how long did you stay on the scene?
Till the cop showed up to take a report.
Was she able to like sit up? Like, I assume you like sat her down. Was she able to sit up, or was she just like laying down?
She was able to sit up.
Okay, I mean that's a good sign, right?
That's a great sign. I don't know how she hit her face. Like that must have fucking hurt. Real bad.
Yeah, but I wonder. I imagine maybe she hit it either the car hit her and she hit the pavement in a way, or maybe it hit her and she first hit their like the hood or the windshield or something.
Yeah,
that's fucking crazy. Holy shit.
Yeah, so that's why I prefaced by saying I had a weird day.
Yeah, clearly. Well, look, we're glad you're okay, and we're glad she's
I was
okay.
not even a part of it. I was just like.
Well, no, I just mean your trauma. Like, I'm glad that
I'll live. Like, I hope this girl can get her chiclets glued back in.
Right. Yeah. What if she comes to your place tomorrow and she's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know that was completely your fault." She's like, "If you hadn't moved and given me space."
She was distracted by you not wearing a mask, and it just threw her off completely.
Yeah, she's like, "Look at this fucking asshole." She doesn't look both ways, and then she's flattened.
Well, yeah. So, in case, glad we covered that. I'm serious. It's a good story, but if anything, I'm just glad that someone's life wasn't cut short. But, so for anybody listening, you probably caught Nick Call's wildly inappropriate yet apropos joke a few minutes ago, where he said, "Did it leave her with a fat lip?" We are covering Sum 41's All Killer, No Filler. Of course, the album that has the hit single, the classic now, Fat Lip. So this album was released May 8th, 2001. It is a ripe 20 years old. We all grew up with this album, whether we liked it or not. This song was ubiquitous. The album was ubiquitous. Sum 41 was ubiquitous. That album cover is like, you never forget it. But I'd like to start with the Knicks, whichever one of you wants to go first. How did this album affect you? And, what was your first introduction to Sum 41? Because I imagine it was definitely this album. I think most people's introduction. I think they had done, some songs here and there, but this was their big one.
I can go first. Definitely Fat Lip. I mean, they came out of nowhere for me. I imagine like a lot of people, unless you followed them when they were pretty early on. Maybe if you live in Canada, you knew about them. But Fat Lip, I remember the video. It hit. I remember TRL premiering it. I want to say, like, I feel like I watched that that episode when they premiered Fat Lip, and it was just it was crazy. I remember the video was wild. The song was like just super different, you know. Like we're gonna get into obviously like the sound of this album and pop punk and sort of like where Sum 41 fits within this era, but I actually think Fat Lip is like a very unique song in terms of pop punk, whether you like it or not, you know.
I agree.
It's dynamically just super different. You know, you got some pop punk stuff, you got a great riff, sort of that fun like call and response, almost like Beastie Boys aspect to it. There's a lot going on, and I just remember this video coming out, and like I remember just like it was so different from anything I had heard at that point, in a good way, and I connected with it. I mean, it was a huge hit, obviously, and then they followed it up with In Too Deep, which was also a really big song, and I ended up getting a hold of the album at some point around then too. But it was big for me. It was big for me. I was thinking about this year, like I looked up, you know, it came out in 2001, and I'm like, that's really funny, like, because in 2000 I was definitely listening to a lot of Hybrid Theory, and then, you know, here I am in 2001 listening to Sum 41 and kind of getting pulled in two different directions in terms of music that I grew up with. But this, yeah, that's kind of like when I think back on Sum 41 and me kind of getting familiar with them, that's what I think about.
And Nick went to a concert for Linkin Park, and they were like, "Where is Nick Stillwell in the audience?" And they pulled him up on stage, and they're like, "You gotta keep listening to us, man." And then he went to Sum 41, and they were like, "What are you doing, man? You can't leave us in the dark."
There was a lot of demand for Stillwell in 2001.
A lot of demand for Stillwell.
Yeah.
They're like, "Hey, Nick, over here." No, I wish. I didn't go to any of those
Hey, Nick,
shows,
over
but
here.
that would have been awesome. Yeah, get some of this over here. Yeah, that sounds nice, Carter. But
very cool. Thank you.
yeah,
but that's quite a history, and I completely agree with you that the song Fat Lip is very different, but it's like it's almost like when you hear it you're like, oh, of course this is a hit, like of course this is gonna get stuck in people's heads and people are gonna love it. But they managed to get a lot into like whatever 2.5-3 minute song, a lot of different styles and uniqueness that I thought was, and that was actually, I think, the first time that I saw a drummer singing was that song.
Phil Collins?
Well, that's different because Phil Collins is like a solo act.
It's different because he's a drummer and he sings. It's like, you wouldn't understand.
Shut up. No,
I get what you mean though. For this era,
for that era, for this genre, and for bands like that,
bands, and yeah,
right,
yeah, it
like
was
Travis,
unique. It was unique.
Yeah, Travis Barker never sang. That guy doesn't even fucking talk, frankly. In interviews, he's like, I remember watching them when Blink was first coming out, and Travis was like silent. But yeah, I remember seeing Sum 41 and like that video, and the drummer has the first verse. He has the first line, and I was like, wait, the drummer's singing? Holy shit. But yeah, Nick, Call, what about you?
I guess my experience was similar to Stillwell. I mean, when I was not listening to Hybrid Theory or Blink-182, I made a little bit of time for Sum 41. The thing I remember the most is, of course, the music videos for Fat Lip and In Too Deep. I also remember it was a weirdly integral part of American Pie 2. I know that at least 2 tracks made it on that movie. So I
Both
think
of those did, yeah.
Yeah, what was it? Those 2?
It was Fat Lip and In Too Deep, yeah.
Yeah, I think In Too Deep was at the very end when they were having like, you know, they were cheersing with like red cups across the room. It's like, yeah, man, we did it. We had a really cool summer, and they like cheered each other. So when I hear In Too Deep, I just think of what's the actor Jason
Biggs.
Jason Biggs, yeah. I just think of him doing like the little tip with the red cup anytime I hear this song come on.
That's really funny. I kind of do too.
Which I know is what Sum 41 intended, was for me to think of American Pie 2 immediately.
Yeah, they're in the studio recording. They're like, we're going to get Jason Biggs and Chris Klein. We're going to get them cheersing, and that is going to be the anthem.
Yeah,
but
guys,
no,
we did it. We're In Too Deep.
We did it, yeah. It's funny. I remember seeing American Pie 2 on DVD and thinking, like, those songs just came out and they're in this movie? Like, how did that happen? And now it's obvious. It's like, you know, especially today, it's like you can get a song as soon as it's out into your movie or whatever. But it's like that was definitely something of like I think that if anything that helped Sum 41 because like that summer belonged to them because of their album and those songs.
sure.
And that movie was huge. That movie was a big hit.
2 songs in one movie is like that doesn't really happen. That's pretty impressive.
That's a lot.
And their first 2 major singles, like they had a good team behind them.
I think they knew their audience pretty well with American Pie too. Just we want like the preteen boy because we got, you know, high school partiers to look up to. We got tits. We got everything that a preteen boy wants.
That's their audience. Tits, high school preteen boys. Bear, what about you?
I don't know that I saw this on TRL, but I definitely heard Fat Lip on the radio on our K-Rock equivalent Q101 out here. I had just turned 13 in May of 2001. This was a day one, like Tuesday purchase, this CD for me. I heard that song, loved it. And then shortly after, this became one of the first CDs I sold because I fucking hated it.
Oh, no.
So a little bit of a disconnect between what was expected and what I got on this one. And I got to say, 20 years later, I was right.
So what happened? What
CD from?
What's up?
Who bought your secondhand CD?
We had this store near where I grew up that they would sell used CDs and you could sell them your CDs. We also have this thing called Disc Replay now. I think they're still around, but I unloaded a lot of CDs out of my old collection, probably like 8 or 9 years ago to Disc Replay. And like, I think I paid like $100. It wasn't much, but I kind of just got rid of that shit. But yeah, every once in a while I would sell something and get something else at the.
How long did it take for you to sell the CD? Like how long had you had the CD before you sold it? When you were like,
it couldn't have been more than a couple months. It had to have been that summer.
Oh wow, it was. Yeah. So you were still 13.
Oh yeah. I was definitely going to like a CD store. I think it was called. I want to say it was Sunny Day, but I know I'm thinking probably Sunny Day Real Estate. So I think it was probably like Sunny Side Records or something. Mm-hmm. And they had all kinds of shit. It was awesome. It was like a small store. They had a bunch of shit. That's, like I was 13 years old. I thought I was a full grown man. I'm sure it was a little weird. Like I went in there and talked to the staff about like sweet shit I wanted to listen to. It definitely smelled like weed in there and I just didn't know about it at the time, which is cool to look back on. That was a good spot. I know they closed down. They used to be in LaGrange. But yeah, that's where you could sell CDs you didn't like.
Wow. So I think we can just end the episode now. It sounds like it definitely not still good for Bear.
I've got a shitload of notes I took to help me articulate my thoughts, but yeah, Carter, you can go ahead with your history of it. We can give me a break.
Well, my history, it's kind of the same as everyone else's. I actually don't even remember like the first time I heard the song, but I just remember like hearing it and being like, this is awesome. What is this? But I actually don't think I ever owned the album. I don't think it was an album that I bought. I think because that was around the time when I was still I had like a boom box in my room and I would take blank tapes and record songs from the radio.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I did with this. And then I went to summer camp and I had my cassette player. So I didn't have this album. And then I heard In Too Deep and did the same thing with that. But like, I definitely remember the video. I remember the girl shaving her head. I remember like the skate. It was like everything of that era. It's like whoever directed that video was like, we're going to take everything that's popular right now and put it into one place. Like pop punk music, the jumping, the skateboarding, the shaving of the heads, the old guy dancing in front of a convenience store, like the punks. It was just everything of that era was just in one little 3-minute video.
And this song, I definitely recorded this off the radio too on a cassette. And the thing that sucked was unless they announced the song, if you didn't know it, you just liked it and you hit record, you had no idea. You couldn't figure out what the fuck it was.
Right. So
I remember like I would fill out that little card in the cassette thing and I had it in there. Like eventually I found out it was like Sum 41, but I wrote it like SOME because you're like, you don't have any reference.
Yeah.
And then the song being called Fat Lip, which is 2 words that aren't in it, is the worst thing possible when you're like trying to guess the name of something you like. So that stymied me pretty hard.
Me too.
I hope that you guessed the song name was Abortion instead.
I wish. That would have been an awesome guess. I don't know that I understood that lyric at the time.
think
That would have been a really good guess.
I think I might have
Yeah,
guessed
that line fucked me up in however old I was as a kid.
Yeah, it was
that
just
was like, oh
what
my
is it?
god, did they really say that? Like, I think to your point, Bear, I didn't quite understand what they were saying. I just knew
No
that
idea.
like, I was a very good Catholic boy, and abortion was bad, and I really liked that song. But that line kind of bothered me. Like, I think it took me a while to get through that.
So were you like, Nick, were you listening to it and being like, no, man?
No, I loved everything about Sum 41 at the time, but I just remember it like, I was like, I think there was probably a part of me that like wished they didn't say that in the song, just because like it went so against like my upbringing and my world at the time, which is just funny.
I get that. I totally get that, because I wasn't allowed to get parental advisory shit. I think we've talked about this before, but I used to have the same thought, like, oh, could you just not said fuck on this CD so I could fucking buy it, because my parents won't let me buy this shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, could you have used another word? I remember being like actively angry about that.
But I got this one. This was this is like when I started to be able to get CDs, but it's not parental advisory. So this one and Linkin Park, like that made it in.
Yeah, I definitely had Linkin Park. I remember having Linkin Park, but I don't know why I didn't buy All Killer No Filler. But I thought the song was what'd you say?
Could have sold you mine.
Yeah, I also thought the song was called "I Don't Want to Waste My Time," because that's how the chorus started.
Makes sense.
Or something like that. But I remember 2001 was the year I started like making home movies for the first time, like my own, like taking my dad's camcorder and shooting stuff. And I remember using Sum 41's In Too Deep in one of them. Like, and I remember having like my sister and her friends were over, and like me and my friends were filming, and like we were all like this crew. And I remember because we didn't have we didn't have like a big computer with editing software to add music to. So I had one of them like upstairs in a room with a boombox out, like turned all the way up outside the window. And I was like, okay, and when we start running away, you press play. The song's queued up perfectly, so press play. And so like we start running away, and like she presses play, and it's like the first bridge of In Too Deep or something like that. So they kind of were definitely a big part of that part of my childhood too, of like the creativity aspect. But before we get into all of our thoughts, I definitely want to get into Bears first, because he has what looks like a fucking small notebook of thoughts. If you had to choose between Fat Lip and In Too Deep, which one's it gonna be?
I think at one point I got tired of hearing Fat Lip. I haven't listened to it in a long time, but revisiting it, it's an awesome song. That song is great. It's really good. In Too Deep is not a good song, and I hate it. And the only thing I really like about it is it's one of very few times that I'm aware that there's two guitar players in this band, which is good. But my overall problem with this album, that is now 20 years old, is that Fat Lip is not the sound they made on this album. And when I heard Fat Lip, I was very excited for someone who was doing Green Day cross with the Beastie Boys. Like, I thought that was cool. Like, I agree. Like, I don't think I knew who Phil Collins was at the time either, but you see the drummer singing, they're doing this singing around thing. You're like, this is fucking great. Like, that sound is really, really good.
Right.
And unfortunately, not only do they not even come close musically to doing something else that's similar to Fat Lip, all the stuff about Fat Lip that makes it good when you get older, including the line about abortion, which is ridiculous and hilarious. That is, how do you compare the lyrics of In Too Deep to the lyrics of Fat Lip? I mean, that is coming out really strong with Fat Lip, and In Too Deep could have been sang by any band. That's a bunch of shit. Those are lyrics you'd write on a fucking Trapper Keeper. That the disconnect between that one song, Fat Lip, and the other, I like mapped it out, because I was like, okay, what do we have here? Like, you have two throwaway songs. The introduction is a throwaway. Never Wake Up is a throwaway. Why even put that on there? Fat Lip is its own thing. Pain for Pleasure is hilarious, kind of experimental. So that leaves you with 9 songs that actually do fit as an album. Those songs make sense together. It's just that my enjoyment of them goes from I think Nothing on My Back is a good song. It's a Green Day song, but it's a good song. That's straight out of Jerry Finn's trash can. But the rest of them are varying levels of I can't do this. Motivation is an MXPX song. That is the song Responsibility. I hate that song. I hate its earnestness. How the fuck was that ever a single? Like Heart Attack, I remember liking as a kid. I can't imagine why now. That song sucks. Summer is a Mark Hoppus song. Like I can see Mark Hoppus do that, but Mark Hoppus has the wistfulness that Sum 41 doesn't have to make a song like that work. And so to me, it's just like that doesn't really work. Rhythms is like a bad Tom DeLonge song. And then Handle This is longer than a fucking Judd Apatow movie and just grinds the whole thing to a halt. Jesus Christ, I hate that song. I remember specifically hating it as a kid. I thought that, how is it that long and that bad? And not only that, like I had a thought about how long it was where like if you queue up The King of Staten Island and start playing Handle This, like when the lion roars for a second time, you can get a Pink Floyd thing where the entire movie King of Staten Island will play and then end right when Handle This ends. And you also learn the true name of God by doing that. So that was a thought I had. Though I didn't try it out, but I think it would probably work.
Yeah, probably.
What a thought. What a thought.
Yeah, what a thought.
What a thought you had, Bear.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I just didn't want to hear that song again. So
but let me just ask you, if the whole album sounded like Fat Lip, wouldn't that get a little redundant? Wouldn't that get a little old?
I thought about that too, but no one else was doing that. So I don't know. Unfortunately, they didn't make that album, so I can't evaluate it. So I don't know where they would have gone if they kept with that. What I do know is what they did put out does make sense as an album. It does have a song. It is fitting. I think it's very much fitting the mold of pop punk at the time. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I agree with almost every review that came out too. That's like, yeah, this album's about 2 years too late. You've got high-end production. It kind of sounds like everything else out there. You know, why care? Entertainment Weekly committed a fucking homicide on this album. They said it's generic grade school punk that Green Day outgrew several albums ago. Sum 41 ultimately don't add up to much. Get them a body bag. Holy shit, that's rough. But I do agree with it in spirit. I just don't. I don't know. It's a really good point. If they did everything in the round, would I also hate it? But the problem is that song is such an anomaly that it does set an expectation that's never met. I like that they did Pain for Pleasure. I like that they actually cashed in a little bit for one song on that line about loving Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. I don't really hear that anywhere else. So I'm not left with much to enjoy. That's a lot of hate. So I apologize, but that's definitely how I felt as a kid. And it's weird to come back to it and have the same thought.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It sounds like you feel about this album about the same as the lead singer does about this album. I don't know if you guys read, but I guess when he was asked like about the wild success of this album, he said, "I have no idea why. I think it stinks." But you know, it put him on the map. As far as what I think, it's impossible to go as negative as Bear. That's for damn sure. I think it has its hits and misses. I mean, obviously, Carter, you posed the question to Bear like Fat Lip or In Too Deep. Those are the two biggest hits. I think Fat Lip is way better. So I'm with Bear on that. I don't think In Too Deep's in my top 5 even on this album. I do like Heart Attack quite a bit. I like Handle This quite a bit. I know it's going to make Bear pretty happy. But I feel like, you know, as a 12, 13-year-old at the time, it's pretty much exactly what you need. There's no thinking to this album. It just sounds cool. And I think...
And it's the album of the moment. Like it's
exactly. I mean, like you said, as far as like what it sounds like, the imagery they put in their music videos, it is exactly what it is. They're not trying to be anything more than that. And if you kind of take it at face value, I feel like you're going to walk away with it thinking, you know, that was fun. It was a good time. It wasn't too in-depth, but I enjoyed listening to it. That was my take.
I disagree with you because I think they are trying to be more than that. And that's what's so frustrating because Fat Lip is trying to be more than that. And then you you listen to the album and it's not, and that's so disappointing.
Well, that's probably a thing with their record label. Like I imagine, because I bet you they are Iron Maiden and Judas Priest fans for sure. But I bet you, whether it was their producer or their A&R people or whatever, were probably like, yeah, you can't do all that though. Like you can't put all of that, into like no one's gonna buy that. I almost like I wasn't there obviously, but like there's a part of me that like almost guarantees that that's what happened. Like it just because I hear what you're saying, and I think both of you are right in the sense that like there are flashes of this album that want to be more than what the whole thing is.
The thing that sucks, this is one of a couple times where I bought an album based on the strength of a single that I thought was gonna be a harbinger of good things I would like, and the rest of the album was nothing near that single. And that you feel like you got sucker punched there. The only one I can think of is that first Foster the People album, Torches. That was another one. I was like, oh, dude, that pumped up kick song slaps. And then you listen to the rest of the album, it's like, oh, this is bad. This is straight up bad music. It sounds nothing like that single does. Stillwell.
I'm one of the only people that doesn't like that song.
That song's good, but again, the rest of the album sucks so bad.
I've heard other songs.
I hope that Carter was the opposite, that he hated that one song but loved the entire album.
That'd be funny. I get it. That's more likely.
I didn't love the album either, and I like other Foster the People songs. I love the song "Sit Next to Me." That song's fucking awesome. But yeah, I don't know. Stillwell, what about you?
You guys hear me okay? My AirPods
Yes.
died. Okay.
That's okay. Yeah, I can hear you. You actually sound better.
Awesome. Perfect. So I think that the first two singles being Fat Lip and In Too Deep is really interesting. And I agree. I actually think In Too Deep doesn't really sound that much like most of the album either. It's like a step in that direction. But you have a really interesting riff in that, in the verses, and kind of the intro. Like that's not very straightforward pop punk. Fat Lip certainly isn't, like we've already talked about. I think it's really interesting that they came out the gate with those two songs, because I completely agree. Whether you liked the album or not, then whether you liked it now, both of those don't really sound like everything else on the album kind of sounds the same. So I wasn't able to find like the story behind those two songs and when they were written versus others. But they were obviously released strategically because they were very unique. And I think maybe, I'm speculating a little bit, but like just knowing that a lot of it does sound a lot like just the generic pop punk we've all heard, especially then, maybe that was their strategy, is like, let's find the most unique songs and kind of put those out. But I agree with what you said, Bear. Like, I think you literally were like, if you pull out Fat Lip specifically, but I would even endeavor to say In Too Deep too. If you pull those out, the album kind of makes a lot more sense cohesively. So I thought that was an interesting point, and just something I was thinking a lot about as I remembered this album and listened to it. I think they're both just really unique songs. I think Fat Lip is for sure my favorite, but In Too Deep is unique. Like again, I think it's very, very different from really many songs that I've heard. Like, I don't even know kind of how they came up with that riff. I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics with it. But in going through the album, so I did some research, and Summer was actually the first song that they ever recorded. And it was the one that they sent to record labels when they were trying to get signed. So that song had been around with them for a while. I think I like that song. Too, I think it fits well on the album. It's right after In Too Deep, track 8.
That's also where their name comes from. Their name comes from being formed 41 days into summer.
Thank you. Thank you. None of us read that on the Wikipedia.
Nick didn't know.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, call it. Thank you.
Are you kidding me?
I read the Wikipedia for the album, but not the band. So I guess I'll go to circle back on that one.
You fucking jerk, Bear. Yeah, how do you feel now?
But I think that, like, it's interesting looking at this album, in like knowing what I know about the band now and kind of what you get on the later albums, the metal influences, like just how well their lead guitar player, is Dave, right? Brown sounds, like how much he can shred. It's really interesting that they made this album compared to like everything they've kind of made since then. And I haven't like kept up with Sum 41 by any means, but you know, there's actually not a lot of riffs on this album. Like kind of comparing it to Blink 182, which obviously we talked about on the first podcast with you guys. You know, they're very riff based, right? This is a lot of power chords, kind of along the lines of Green Day. Like, I think that's a good comparison. But if anything, I think it wasn't really allowing their full band to shine in the way that they're capable of, and the way that I think they do on some of their later albums. That was something I was also thinking about. I think that there's a lot of good stuff on here. I just think you kind of have to be okay with the highs and lows of it. I don't think it's a perfect album, but there's a lot on here that I like. I think that, Barry, you brought up the intro and the outro. Like, I think that's just like hilarious. I love the outro. I remember being a kid listening to this album and loving the outro, even though it was so different from the rest of the album. And you kind of get a glimpse of like the metal influence and sort of where they take their sound in a heavier way on Does This Look Infected, the second album after this. But I just think Pain for Pleasure is like a fun song to listen to. And I remember like just being obsessed with those riffs. And I kind of wish that they did more of that stuff on this album in retrospect. I looked up the lyrics to the Introduction to Destruction, and I just thought I'd read them for fun, because I know they also still open their show with that track to this date. I watched like
Oh wow.
a live stream video on YouTube that someone ripped from one of the festivals. Like they played some rock, like, I don't know, like Hellfest or one of those like rock festivals that kind of book a lot of these bands nowadays, from a couple years ago. And they play that to open the show, which I thought was hilarious. But so this is what the intro says. Children of the beast embrace, to scorn and hate the human race, consume the light that hugs the earth, and aid the womb in giving birth, to aid a group that will appear and guide you through this final year. The dark armies then will come when the sum is 41. Like,
I'm not surprised at all that was Bear's favorite track.
It's just no, that's just a throwaway. Like, it's funny, but it's like, it's not, it's short, it's a throwaway. I don't know that I love it, but I loved Stillwell's dramatic reading of it. The problem I have with Pain for Pleasure, it doesn't go anywhere. That song is not given enough room to breathe. Like, that needs another minute and a half, because that's a great song and it's over before it starts.
Yeah, I really wonder why they threw that on at the end, and why they didn't do more with it. Like, again, maybe it was just because like they wanted to make, like, they love metal and they wanted to make something different. But I kind of think they could have done something more with that. I think the intro is hilarious, and I think it goes right after that. It goes into Nothing on My Back, which I think is a banger.
I do too. Good song. And not only that, but Derek, his vocals are mixed down more in that track than the rest of them, and it's the correct level for his ability to sing. And they bring him up a little too much in Too Deep, and then you start to focus too much on the lyrics, and it's bad. But that, I was surprised that I liked that song, given that I don't like any other songs except for Fat Lip. That's a good song.
I like really from the start all the way to Handle This. I actually really like Handle This. Call, I'm glad you said you do too.
Jesus, what happened?
For me, I think my top, I think that's definitely like in my top 3, maybe even my second or first favorite song on the album. Well, behind Fat Lip. Fat Lip would be number 1. I think Handle This might be number 2, but I think that's a really good song. And then the album kind of loses me after that. I think Heart Attack is a really annoying song. I did not enjoy that. They kind of just lose me. Like, I feel like they had a good thing going, you know, up until that point, but then the album kind of just becomes fairly average after that.
I think it's gonna be tough for us to find common ground on this album. Like, I like Handle This a lot. That's also a top 3 for mine.
Stop
but
saying
I also like Heart Attack. I think that's one of my top 3. I just feel like we all have like songs that were, oh, I love that one. Oh no, I hated that one.
I think we can all agree that we love Fat Lip, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think that song's just like, I gotta say, even 20 years later, I still haven't heard a song quite like it in terms of the genre that it's in, and you know, the type of stuff they're doing, like the marriage of, as you said, Beastie Boys with what was it? Beastie Boys with
It's
who?
like Beastie Boys and Green Day, but in
Yeah,
the
Beastie Boys and
context of
Green
this
Day,
album, it doesn't play like a single. It plays like a joke because it's not what this album is. In that I just have a huge problem with that. I don't know what you people are on with it. Handle this. How
Hey,
can
by the
you,
way, handle this.
How can you handle that much earnesty in a song? Like that makes me.
It's pretty
wanna,
earnest,
like, hide.
but
It's so earnest. It's like, oh
We can
God,
handle
stop.
this.
You want to know handle this? Yeah, make that 3 people that like it. I like that song too. So eat shit again.
So Bear's been officially outvoted.
Yeah, Bale, you're done. It's over.
But yeah, by the time you get done listening to it, you've aged 20 years also.
No, it's kind of like I feel like it's like the closest thing to a ballad that they have on the album, and obviously, as you know, I'm a big ballad fan. But I think Into Deep is kind of close to a ballad too. I think Handle This is a little closer, but it's funny. It's really hard. Like Into Deep and Fat Lip are like most of the time just so neck and neck for me. But I will say lately I've been on slightly more of an Into Deep kick when listening to this album. I really think it's catchy. And one of the things that I do when I listen to songs is I do a lot of like visualization with them. Like I imagine like, them playing over like credits of a movie I make or in a movie. So I can like kind of see them, and that helps me like get into them more. So if I can see something like that with a song I'm listening to, it just makes me like it more. And that's something that I feel like Into Deep is doing at the moment. So I'm going to give just the slightest edge to Into Deep, just in terms of Into Deep versus Fat Lip. But Fat Lip is undeniably like a truly original song, and it's just and it's great. I agree with you, Bear, that I really like Nothing on My Back. I think that song is awesome, and I actually really like, my favorite part of it is towards the end when he's just like nothing on my back, and they kind of repeat it, and there's the guitar and the drums come back in, and then it builds up again. I just think that's really inventive and cool. I don't like Heart Attack either. And I agree. This song, this album is it's a lot of, I don't know, it's weird. It's a lot of like fits and starts and hits and misses. Like I love Nothing on My Back. I hate Never Waking Up. I love Fat Lip. I can take it or leave it with Motivation and Summer. I really like Handle This. I really like Into Deep. I think the outro and intro are very funny. I agree with you. But like, some of the songs that are just kind of peppered throughout, they're just forgettable. The one thing I'll say is that this album is a very easy listen. It's like 38 minutes or something. It's really short. It flies by. I listened to it like 32, even shorter. Jesus Christ. I listened to it like a bunch of times before we recorded, because it's just like, yeah, why not? I can have this on while I cook. I can it's like you can do anything with it. But like, I think that it's funny, I've never heard an analysis of this album or of Sum 41 quite like what you said, Bear, and I have to say I don't disagree with the fact that like, had the album sounded a little bit more inventive in the way that Fat Lip does, I don't think anybody would have been against that. But I would imagine that it was the record label that was like, all right, well, we gave you Fat Lip, now go do something else that everyone else is gonna love. But Fat Lip was just, you hear that song, you hear that riff, and you're immediately transported back to 2001. Like, it's a song for that time. Like
yeah, it's good.
You mentioned this album had a lot of hits and misses and a lot of different sounds going on, but I feel like you need to give a band the leeway to do that on their first full-length album.
I agree.
Them discovering what their sound is, and like we talked about, I think they really put it together in their albums after. Does This Look Infected and Chuck are both really good albums. I think
they're both better than this one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And they really progressed their sound. They pretty much changed genres more or less. They started out as like kind of pop punk for All Killer No Filler, and they went to like, alternative metal, like thrash metal for Chuck at times.
Yeah.
Which I thought played well. Stillwell, you mentioned earlier that there was some kind of really cool guitar riffs in All Killer No Filler, but there was only a little bit. I really feel like they expanded on that as they got into like Does This Look Infected, and Chuck.
Mhm.
So there were some good seeds, but I just think with this album, I mean, you have to look at it as a standalone individual, but I mean, you also got to remember that it's them kind of finding their sound and putting their whole, kind of setting the tone for their discography and kind of evolving as an artist,
Yeah, I agree. I think that they had more to offer. They ultimately kind of show you that in the next two albums specifically. Does This Look Infected and Chuck, which I both like as well. Yeah, I would have liked to have heard more riffs on this, like especially just knowing that, like, I mean, they have full on guitar solos in Does This Look Infected on a couple songs, which is awesome. And like I said, Dave Brownsound, their guitarist, can shred. I would have liked to have seen more of that on this, or just more riffs in general. I think the power chords work. They do a good job with them, but there could have been more risk taken on the album. But I do hear you that, like, it can work both ways, right? You can be like, well, your whole album sounds the same and that's not interesting. Or you could be like, it's kind of all over the place. I don't know if this is all over the place. I think there's the few songs that kind of stick out as being unique, like we've talked about. But I do agree with you that, for a first album out the gate, like, it's kind of nice to see at least them doing some different things on here and kind of figuring it out in real time. You have sort of the ballad and Handle This, like we've talked about. You kind of see them trying a lot of different things, and then I think they figure it out more after that.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
What about Motivation? How do you guys? Carter said he kind of likes it. That song.
No, I said I could take it or leave it.
I could leave it forever. Like, I just wrote down unlistenable. Like, how
I was
are you
surprised.
not more disturbed?
I was surprised that was their third single.
Yes, it's horrifying.
I didn't know that at the time. That they even had a third single. I mean, in my opinion, like, at the time it was Fat Lip and Too Deep, and then that was it. But when I was going back and reading about this album, I read that Motivation was the third single, which I thought was kind of a random choice. I think it's fine. I could do without it. It's fine. It fits on the album, but, like, it's not one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not sure if it's going to crack my top 10 on this album, which puts it at, like, I don't know. How many tracks are on this album? Like 12?
13.
13.
So yeah, I wouldn't say
the intro.
10 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I think, like, I agree, Nick, that, like, it's cool to see them try things. And then especially when you listen to, Does This Look Infected and Chuck, to hear those things come to more fruition in those albums is cool. But I didn't know this till I did some research, but the original drummer is not in the band, and he left after Chuck, I believe. He's a real estate agent in Palm Springs.
Oh, in Palm Springs?
Yeah, he's a complete...
I read that he was a real estate agent, but I guess I assumed he lived in Canada still.
Yeah,
he's in Palm Springs, and what's so interesting is, like, he had success. Like, this band was successful, but he probably was just like, I'm just not loving it. I think it was a thing of, like, I think they were probably going in a direction that maybe he was just like, I'm just not into this. So I give the guy a lot of credit. And he also went by Steve-O at the time a little bit, but then Steve-O from Jackass was a lot bigger. So he's like, I can't really do that. But
did he leave after Chuck?
I'm pretty sure he left after Chuck, because between Chuck and their next album, which I think is called Underclass Hero, I think it was like 3 years. And I think in that time they found a new drummer. I also YouTubed a couple live versions of Fat Lip, and it's a different key. And I don't like it as much, the live version. It does not sound nearly as good. That said, this recording of Fat Lip it's fucking immortal. It's all time. But I think that the album as a whole, I agree that you have to judge it as a whole piece. And I feel like it's because it's like, yeah, we all read Derek Wilby's interview where he's like, I don't think it really holds up that well. And the one thing I thought of as I was listening to it was like, you know what? It's kind of a bit of a relief to other artists, whether they're in music or a different field or something, to hear, the front man of the band say that. Because he's basically saying, like, yeah, this album was huge. I actually don't really love it. But basically it's like, we're learning, like, oh, it's okay. Like, it's okay that it doesn't hold up that well. It's okay that maybe it's not as great as you want it to be, because like, luck, obviously, like they had some good luck and it was a hit. If it wasn't a hit, they probably wouldn't have gotten to make more songs, and more albums, but it was a hit. And so they got a chance to expand their sound and really make stuff they were proud of. And I guess you don't always hear artists say that. I thought that was very refreshing that he was like, yeah, I don't really know how much that holds up. Because usually when you hear somebody say like, oh, I don't like that movie, it's like this big clickbaity thing, like, oh, and they bash their own thing. And it's like, he's not bashing it. He's basically just saying like, yeah, we were really green, and I don't quite know how great we were, but clearly they got better, and hopefully they're making stuff that he's proud of now. But I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit because I thought that was such an interesting and refreshing outlook, and I can't really think of many other. I guess Chris Martin from Coldplay said that about X and Y. He was like, that album wasn't as good as.
Carter works Coldplay into this discussion. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Of course I do. Yell at me all you want.
I wish Chris Martin said that about every Coldplay album.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I know the Beastie Boys kind of famously disowned their first album for good reasons.
Okay.
In their book, Ad Rock claims he goes into a whole thing explaining why Hello Nasty is their best album. He is incorrect about his own work. David Fincher famously disowned Alien 3. He's wrong about that. Alien 3 fucking rules.
Yeah, he did not
I
like
don't
Alien 3.
know how much I put stock into artists evaluating their own work, especially once it's finished. Once it's finished, I do think you give it over to people experiencing it.
That's true.
But it's interesting. I don't know. Did it say which of his albums, Derek Whibley's, that he thinks is the best?
No, he didn't. He just said because someone was like, "All Killer No Filler's turning 20. Can you believe it?" And I think he was like, "Yeah, but it's not that great from what I remember." But I don't know. I feel like that wasn't really on his mind. I think he was more just like, "Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that album didn't. I think he was more like I think he was basically saying like, I don't think it holds up, and I'm worried that other people are going to listen to it and think the same thing."
Are they
That's
still
the vibe
making
I got.
music?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Wow,
But I feel like a few. I don't think it's just the drummer that. I think they've changed a few people in the band.
No, it's just the drummer.
Oh, it's just the drummer. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Brownstown left and came back.
Well,
Right, that was it.
I know you mentioned went into real estate in Palm Springs, but before he went into real estate, he had a small stint in stand-up comedy. So do yourself a
that worked
YouTube
out.
favor and get ready not to laugh when you check it out.
Oh God.
Did you check it out?
Of course I checked it out.
How bad?
You
Give
gotta
us an
give us
idea of a
something.
joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here was like his leading joke.
Oh Christ.
Is that he was talking about how after a show, he would go and wait for the groupies and he'd be excited for the groupies and they would come up to him and they would see it was just the drummer and they would bypass him and wait for Derek. And that was his joke. It's like, hey, I'm the drummer. I don't get any pussy. Get it? And then
So he was just out there doing band material too.
Yeah.
To an unconvinced audience.
yeah, it's pretty bad.
Oof.
That's
Kind of-
brutal. That's
kind
not,
of
that's not a
related.
joke. That's just like a
Oh, it's-
fact. It's just
I
a
know.
thing
but
that
it was
happened.
a fact, and it was a not interesting one at that. But he did mention that he did blow with the band Metallica, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
I thought there was a lot of influence on the album Chuck. I know we're not talking about that album specifically, but I thought there was a lot of Metallica influence on that album, especially on the song "The Bitter End." It just
Oh,
sounded
yeah.
Master of Puppets like right out of the gate. So I thought it was interesting that he was talking about hanging out with Metallica and doing Blow with them, and then seeing them turn around and do Chuck. So that was kind of cool.
That's
Yeah, they're
hilarious.
I mean they're big metal guys. Like I know we talked about it, and they they actually played. Metallica was inducted to the well, I mean not inducted. I don't know if you remember MTV used to do their Icon thing where they would like do a whole special about a particular band, and it was kind of their version of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But they did one on Metallica, and they had a lot of bands and artists at the time that were popular, like for the show perform live versions of the songs, recreations. And Sum 41 opened the show, and I think they played, is it Master of Puppets, or I think they did a medley of a couple songs. But I remember watching that because it was more around this album, the all killer no filler phase. They hadn't done Does This Look Infected yet, so I just remember Dave, their guitarist, like nailing the solos and shredding, and like them all being pretty good musicians. Much more than you get to see on this album, because it's very straightforward power chords for the most part. Just a random Metallica thing with them that I just thought about.
That's interesting. I mean, I never listened to anything else they put out because I hated this album so much. The only other song I know is Still Waiting, and I think that song sucks. But it's interesting that they get to showcase some different things. I agree with what you said about In Too Deep earlier. That's a good riff. There's a good little guitar solo that sounds like it's ripped out of the middle of the 80s. It's not very long. They don't give us enough, but that's one of the few places where where All Killer No Filler breaks out and does something with actually having two guitar players that I felt like crossed over from what Blink-182 can do with one. Whereas the rest of the album doesn't feel that way. And I'm like, why even have two guys? So I believe it.
Yeah,
but it's
fair.
just like, you see, all right, you've got a lead and a rhythm. Hopefully they do some cool layering, and they kind of don't. And it's like, well, the fuck didn't you do anything with this?
That's interesting. I think, it's funny to hear that you didn't. I mean, I'm not surprised if you didn't like this first album, you wouldn't listen to anything else. But you should listen to Chuck.
I also didn't check out Coldplay's entire catalog after you maybe listen to Parachutes.
No, that's normal. It's understandable. You should listen to Chuck, though. I feel you're a heavier guy. You're into heavier music. Chuck has.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, you're a big
You're a
guy.
heavier guy.
I'm
Sorry.
a larger man. I'll enjoy it.
No, I meant. Oh man, no, you're into heavier music because you're heavier, and no, you should check out.
It
Chuck.
resonates through me better.
Yeah. You can handle that music better. You should listen to it. There's some really good metal songs. But anyways, as we wrap up here, guys, what are our final verdicts? What do we think? I feel like. Actually, I'll say what I say, but I want to hear what the Knicks say first. We know what Bears' answer is, of course.
It hasn't changed. Hated it then, hate it now.
I mean, I would say for me, this is tough because it's very good if I'm in 2001 playing Tony Hawk and I'm blasting it in the background. It's very good. But is it good for me at 32 years old? I'm going to have to lean probably towards no. I mean, I'm not going to throw this album on and really listen to it. That being said, I will throw on Chuck. I listened to that today and it was awesome. Probably going to listen to it again this week. But for All Killer No Filler, I'll pull out, Fat Lip and some of my songs and listen to them as a standalone from time to time. But front to back as an album, I'm going to have to unfortunately say still not good.
Let's go.
Still well.
Yeah, I agree. Still not good. Yeah, it's interesting, Nick, like what you just said, because when we did the Blink episode, I mean, I know you listen to Blink all the time, but kind of like we talked about, as much as I love them, I just don't listen to them all the time. But it got me in a Blink mode. Like I listened to that album after the episode. I listened to more albums. I feel like I've listened to more Blink in the last year just because we did that podcast episode, to be completely honest. So I thank you guys for that. It's been great. It's been good times. But with this one, yeah, like I kind of don't really think I'm going to listen to All Killer No Filler much after this episode. I think you get a lot more of what this band was capable of on the later albums, which is a good thing. I'm happy for them that they get to, that they got to later showcase their full capabilities. But here, it's really a warm-up act, I think, in terms of Sum 41.
Yeah, I think it's tough for me as well because there's like enough on the album that I like, but as a whole, I can't justify putting it on, listening to it from start to finish and enjoying everything. Like, for example, like Enema of the State. I feel like maybe I don't like one. Actually, no, I think I like all the songs on it. like truly. And there might have been, I think for a while I didn't like Wendy Clear, but that changed. And so I was like, okay, that's one song out of 11. Yeah, that album's still good. But on this, it's like half the album I'm not really into. Like I could take it or leave it. So for me, it's a soft no. And the reason it's a soft no is because Bear's very happy.
Let's go. Rackham. Hell yes.
But listen, we're all more fucking thoughtful than, well, no, you're not unthoughtful. You're very mean about
I'm
it.
heavy.
You're heavy, right? You're too heavy.
I'm just large.
You're very
Bear's
big,
got a full
heavy.
page of thoughts. You can't call him not thoughtful.
Yeah, thank you,
I'm
Stillwell. Let's
joking.
have you on more often.
Yeah, no, I'm being mean to my co-host. I'm sorry, Michael. That's right. His name's Michael. In case anybody's shocked to hear that. No, but yeah, I don't think it's still good. I think it's close. I think as much as I love Fat Lip and In Too Deep and Nothing on My Back and Handle This, fuck you, Bear.
Handle This.
I just feel like
that's where we're diverging is Handle.
I feel like those 4 out of 13 tracks are really the only ones that I would want to listen to on repeat. So just based on pure math, that's less than half the album. So I can't give it a still good vote. That said, I agree that I think Does This Look Infected and Chuck are, from my memory at least, far superior. And so we should cover those at some point. But yeah, before we go, I'd love it if we could do a dramatic reading of the first, or as much of the first verse of Fat Lip as we can remember. Alternating lines. I mean, it's up to you guys. If you don't want to do it,
I weirdly probably know every word of that song.
That's terrific.
I weirdly probably don't. I've heard that song a million times, and I played it at my wedding. I insisted upon having it at my wedding, but I probably don't.
Oh, hell yeah. All right, listen. So here's what we're gonna do. I'll start the first line, and then whoever knows the other one, just come in.
No, that's gonna be a mess. That's gonna be a mess.
Okay, you're right.
You gotta have a set order. They have a set order in the band.
You're right. So Bear, if you know all the words, maybe you should go first.
Oh, all right. Then who's second?
I'll go second.
Call will go second.
Okay.
And then Stillwell goes third. I go fourth.
And we're totally not Googling this, right?
No,
I promise you I could probably do the whole thing from memory. Weirdly.
Let's see if we can do it from memory.
Okay. Storm into the party like my name was El Nino.
Something El Camino.
Well, I'm hanging out drinking in the back of El Camino.
Yeah.
Snipe.
As a
You
kid.
can pass. We'll just keep it going if you have to pass.
As a kid.
That's your line you're giving was as a kid?
No, it's as a kid, and then someone else says the other one.
Was a skid?
Yeah.
All right, I'll take it.
And nobody knew me by name.
Crashed my own house party because nobody came.
Well, I know I'm not the one you thought you knew back in high school.
Hard pass.
Never knew and never lied to.
Never going. Isn't it like never going?
I think it's attention that we crave.
That's the next one.
That's the next
Never
line.
going. No,
Tell us to behave.
No. It's attention that we crave.
Don't tell us to behave.
I'm sick of always being told to act my age.
I don't want to waste my time.
Become another casualty of society.
I'll never fall in line.
Become another victim of
Your conformity or back down. We're good.
That was nice.
That was good. That was a disaster.
Well, it's hopefully we can get to that abortion line we talked about, so someone could say it.
It's
and then
so deep in there.
It's deep in there. It's like the how does it go? It's
I like songs with distortion.
Drinking. What?
Drinking in proportion.
Drinking
the
in
doctor
proportion.
said my mom should have had an abortion.
Abortion, and then it echoes.
Yeah, I love how it echoes out. Just in case you didn't hear it the first time.
Yeah, in case you didn't hear it the first time, they're like, listen, I should have been aborted. And little Catholic Nick Stillwell was like, I don't like that. Like he saw all the fans. He's like, I know you guys like that, but I don't like that.
It bothered me for sure. It's funny that song is only 2 minutes and 58 seconds because Carter, I think you said this in the beginning. Like there's a lot of sections and a lot going on that song.
They pack a lot in.
It feels way longer, not in a bad way. Just like dynamically, there's so much that they get done, and
Yeah.
just under 3 minutes, and you see that the same way in the video.
I think if all 3 Lord of the Rings movies were a song, they packed in
might
so
change
much.
the time signature for the third verse, which is fairly complex.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, doesn't vibe with anything they do on the rest of the album.
Yeah.
Is that? Hang on. I think you might be right. Hang on.
I'm excited to watch you listen to the song in real time in your head.
Yeah, that's good. That's
No.
good. That's good for the show.
Great radio.
That's a good note to end on. Yeah. All right.
Were you figuring out the time signature? Is that what was going on?
Yeah, he was
there?
clapping.
but
You just couldn't see it.
I don't think it does change time signatures. I think it's just I think the third chorus is the same.
He's talking about the bridge.
Yeah.
The abortion part?
After Don't Count on Me.
Oh, don't count on me.
After that, when it
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. Actually, yeah, you're right. I was wrong. I think they changed it up a little bit. I'm a fucking idiot.
We had a gifted musician to walk us through the tempo here.
Fucking idiot.
As I've said many times, I will never hate something without having an extreme example of why.
Entertainment Weekly, man, they were harsh in 2001.
They went like a lot of places actually weren't very nice. That one was like,
what did they give it? Like a D?
They gave it a C plus, which I don't think fits that.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the verbiage. Jesus.
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect that from them. You know, I'd expect a harsh review from other places, but not Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah,
I'll never forget this. This was the first time I discovered like comments and like before they were even a thing, like comments on internet articles. So Entertainment Weekly, the music critic, I think his name was David Brown. He gave Blink-182's "Take Off Your Pants and Jacket" a C plus, and a lot of angry fans were like, "What the hell?" Yeah, I agree with them. First of all, it's a fucking ridiculous. That album is fucking A minus easy. A lot of angry fans were like, "What the hell's wrong with you, David Brown?" Like tons of comments, David Brown, and you can like fill in your name for whatever you want. And so there were a lot of people, yelling at him for giving it a bad grade. And then a commenter who wrote the name David Brown wrote, fine, I'll raise my rating to an A plus. Now I'm going to go back to having lovely oral sex with my friend John, who's giving my son a rim job right now. And I remember reading that and being like, what? Like my head exploded. And for the longest time, I was like, oh my God, that critic just like openly said that he was like having sex with someone who was like servicing his son or something fucked up. Then it took me a while to realize, oh, that was clearly somebody just doing a joke as the bad critic. But like, I had never seen anything like that. That was my first introduction to like internet chat room fucking comments or whatever. And it was weird.
Yeah. Welcome to the party, pal, on internet comments. I mean, some of us grew up on that sludge.
Oh my God.
And then Carter spent a lot of time in chat rooms after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was and then I realized I love chat
Just
rooms.
being that guy.
Yeah. I never wanted to leave.
I Drowned in Sound, which I've never heard of, said, if this record had come out 2 years ago, then maybe the story could have been completely different. Sorry, guys, it's not a bad album, but too many bands are doing the same thing a million times better. Good, just not good enough. And then the hardtimes.net, which I've never fucking heard of, said about the line about the guy's mom's doctor should have had an abortion. Obviously she didn't, but goddamn, can you imagine what that must have been like to hear? I don't want to get political, but that's kind of fucked up. And also I agree with that doctor.
Jesus.
I feel like the hardtimes.net could be another type of website that Bear goes to pretty often.
Yeah, I'm secretly writing there all the time.
Yeah, that's Bear's site.
If you see something about someone getting hit by a car on there under a pen name, it was me.
Yeah, that was me or him. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. The Knicks, thank you guys for coming back. It's really always great to have you. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as we do.
Yeah, the pleasure is always yours.
You always give such interesting opinions and always make me feel terrible for thanking you, Nick Call. Nick Stillwell, you're the best. Nick Call, you're the worst. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Feel free to subscribe on iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. You can say whatever you want about me, terrible things, as long as you give us a 5-star review. Subscribe to us on YouTube. You can watch this. Is It Still Good? You can find us on Instagram at Still Good Show, and our website, stillgoodshow.com. We'll see you next week as we continue our 2001 summer movie season revisiting. And we thank the Knicks, and we thank all of you. And for Bear Kennedy, I'm Andrew Carter. Also listen on Spotify, because Nick Stillwell works for Spotify, and he got mad at me for not mentioning Spotify.